Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby, live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Good morning, my friends. Thank you for coming on board and being part of it with us today. It is this beautiful Monday edition of the Michael Dukes Show, the 20th of January, Inauguration Day, for those of you who are keeping track at home of all the big events going on in the world today. In fact, in about 2 hours, the inauguration is going to get started, and we're going to have what we hope is a peaceful transition of power to the new administration with lots of stuff happening, man. There's a ton of stuff happening across the country, and especially in Washington, D.C. A lot of anxiety about what's happening here in the next few hours in the D.C. area. We'll probably touch on that this morning here as we get going on. Today is a good day. Today is the beginning of a new week, and a little bit of a crazy weather continues. Yesterday, it was I just swear it was like it was raining, that it was snowing, that it was raining, that it was snowing, and it was schizophrenic, and it couldn't decide what it wanted to do down here on the peninsula. But we're back to a little bit of mostly clear skies today. I hope your weather is maintaining its dignity wherever you are today as we go through here. In hour one this morning, we've got some headlines to discuss and things that are going on around the state. We're going to be talking about some of the latest pre-filed bills that are going in to the Alaska legislature for its start tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first day of the legislative session, which that ought to be interesting. We're going to have some discussions on things that are going on there, and some of the bills that we're looking at that have been now the second tranche of bills were pre-filed and laid out yesterday. Not nearly as many as the first go-around. The first go-around had something like 86 different bills and a handful of constitutional amendments and so much more. Yesterday, there was only 20 bills. It was 20 bills, and it was 10 in the Senate and 10 in the House, with 81 measures the week before. Sorry about that, not 86. I got a little carried away. 81 measures from the week before, but that brings us up to just over an even 100 different bills that are going to be pre-filed. Of course, we all know what's really going to be the key thrust of the legislative session this year. And that, of course, is the aforementioned discussion about education funding, defined benefits, and probably something related to gas development in the Cook Inlet, with probably some royalty relief or some other kind of governmental bailout put into all those things. So here we are, and we're ready to go for this Monday. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I actually had an amazing weekend. I did some work both Saturday and Sunday, but not a lot. It was actually kind of a quiet weekend as I did some planning and some other, I guess, more intellectual things where I was planning and thinking about things and strategizing. I was doing strategery this weekend as opposed to running around like a chicken with my head on, cut off, which has been my kind of my go-to for the last 2 or 3 weeks here, 4 weeks. And so I'm feeling kind of good, feeling kind of relaxed. It was very, very nice to be able to do that. So just catching you up on my own personal journey, as we go through. In hour 2 today, we're going to be talking with 3 of the ladies who are helping to coordinate the Community Connect event, which is going on statewide. In across the state and across the country, but across the state today, we're going to talk to the ladies up in the interior, on the Central Peninsula and on the Southern Peninsula about this big event, which is coming up on the 28th. And we're going to talk about what exactly it covers. What does it mean? What are we going to be doing? And I'm looking forward to talking with all the people here and kind of get a feel for what's going on in the various communities. Because these community outreach events are important, and I thought it was important to share with you. So we'll do that as well in hour 2, and then kind of I guess do any cleanup of any of the other stories that we didn't get to, or maybe fleshing out some of those things and getting them going on. What else is going on in the state? Well, I think a lot of people are kind of just waiting today. Terry asked me yesterday, she goes, "You're broadcasting tomorrow, right?" I'm like, "What? You think I work for the government or someplace where I get to take President's Day and MLK Day off? No, I don't. I got to go out there and get it done." But there's a lot of folks who are out there enjoying a day off today. And so congratulations to you guys. Congratulations on making that happen and getting that making that work. All right. Well, let's see. What should we hit some of the headlines that are going on around here? They're going on around the state and around the country as we get ready to go. First and foremost, I guess we could start with this. I saw this video this weekend. I was on Facebook a little bit this weekend for about 15 minutes. It's about all I could take. It was about 15 minutes of Facebook. Although I guess we will talk about this as well. Interesting to see what happened with TikTok this weekend. And some of you probably are like, "What's TikTok?" Okay, so we'll catch you up on that as well, and we'll get to that. But it was interesting. But the video that we caught this weekend was a video from I think it was Keith Fawns, who's been a guest on the program before, and he had a live video from in Fairbanks on Badger Road where the police were trying to stop what turned out to be a drunk driver. Couldn't quite tell what it was to begin with, but there was about 8 or 9 police cars chasing this vehicle down Badger Road in kind of this slow-mo pit maneuver turn, crashing into police cars and trying to get by. Fairbanks police say that one of their sergeant is physically okay after a now arrested DUI suspects rammed their car during this 30-minute chase from Fairbanks that ended in North Pole. The police said that after citizens called them about the suspect, whose name was Elena Betcher, driving under the influence, she fled when they attempted to talk to her. During the chase, police said she drove into oncoming traffic multiple times, and several drivers had to avoid being hit head-on. They said they then used a pit maneuver, which involves law enforcement causing a car to abruptly turn to force it to stop to catch her. She was arrested on multiple charges, including DUI, felony, eluding, third-degree assault, and her outstanding warrants. So she was she was already in trouble. But the video is out there on Facebook if you want to watch it. It's kind of interesting to see how they're trying to box her in and everything else. It was, I was watching that going, definitely exciting times up in Fairbanks over the weekend. But we'll see how that all turns out in the end. But apparently everybody's safe. Nobody was hurt in the long term, and this person is now under arrest. Down south here, we had a different sort of problem, which I don't know if it's a long-term problem or not. But an Alaska resident was admitted to a Homer hospital with measles after flying home from Seattle, apparently after an overseas trip. They subsequently drove from Anchorage to the Kenai Peninsula after they arrived there at the airport. The health department issued a public alert on Thursday stating that the infected person was an unvaccinated adult who was traveling back home to Alaska from an overseas trip. And they had been flying on an Alaska Airlines flight from Seattle to Anchorage. They said the report warned that they could put at risk other non-immune people at Ted Stevens Airport and at SeaTac. That person is now in isolation at Providence, and after visiting the South Peninsula Hospital Emergency Department in Homer on Monday. Now, measles is kind of it's highly infectious, and it's been around forever. But we haven't had too many cases of it here in the United States, mainly because they say that that they've been putting it in the MMR vaccine since 1963. So that means that any of us born after 63 probably have had the MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine since then. It's interesting that this has come out now, but this person had not been inoculated, according to the source. The last time this happened was in 2018, and so that was it. They still come out, they still pops out, but it is highly contagious. Apparently, it can sit around on surfaces for several hours before it dies. The virus can die a natural death, and it's got something like a 12-day incubation period. So it can make it very difficult to see how where you may have been spreading it on the way out. So just kind of pay attention to what's going on. And if you were anywhere from Ted Stevens International Airport down to Homer in the last, since last Monday, and you start to get cough, fever, rash, you may want to check it out, and we'll see what we'll see what happens there. But as of right now, this is the first case since 2019. Sorry, not 2018, 2019. And just forewarned is forearmed, I guess, at this point. So be paying close attention to yourself if you are anywhere in that area. We're also going to talk about some of the new nominees for the president and who is being supported by whom. Lisa Murkowski said she wasn't sure who she was going to vote for, and now she's come out with a couple positives that we'll talk about as well. Plus all those pre-filed bills that we talked about and more. So we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio, will continue on this beautiful Monday, President's Day, MLK Day, and of course, Inauguration Day. Lots of stuff to celebrate out there. We'll be back right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Oh, man. Let me go back up here and see what's going on here. See what you guys got saying and going on. Good morning. Hey, Dad. My dad's in the chat room. Everybody say hi to my dad. My dad and my mom listen every day, except for when they sleep in, which is occasionally. He's admitted it. He goes, occasionally he sleeps in. But you know, when you're 80-something years old, I don't want to embarrass him. Maybe he doesn't want me to say his age. When you're over 80 and you're hanging out and you're just, I'd probably sleep in too. Let me just put it that way. I'd probably sleep in too, occasionally. So everybody say hi to my dad and my mom, who's listening with my dad. Love you guys. The way you felt Friday, I thought you would be recovering. I don't know. I recovered. It was a great weekend. It was a good weekend. Yeah. Let's see. Technically, says Brian, a non-work day, but guess who's working? I mean, that was my weekend, right? Technically a non-work day, but we're still getting stuff done. We're still getting stuff done. John says they had one job and they couldn't pit a car on icy roads. It was kind of interesting to watch the video. If you haven't watched the video, I think it was Keith Fons Jr. who's got the video up on Facebook that I came across. And it was like the first cop got the pit maneuver going and got the car spun around, but the second car didn't want to physically pin them in. It's like, I don't want to scratch my car. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting to watch. You could watch the video. It's out there on Facebook right now. Brian says, who had Fairbanks PD and pit maneuver on their bingo card for 2025? Oh, Anthony says Florida Banks is getting a little bit more and more spicy every week that goes by. Yeah, it's one of those things. 24-hour viability on surfaces. I thought it was 12, but yeah, interesting stuff. Ohayou gozaimasu. Thank you, Fat Ray. Everybody's saying hi to my dad. Thank you, guys. Jeannie says, if you don't pin them, they aren't subdued. Yeah, I mean, it was like there was a perfect opportunity after the first time the first officer spun the car. The second officer came around in that classic pincer, and I thought they were going to pin him between the other cars, but it's like, I don't want to scratch my paint. It's kind of, I felt this hesitation, and I was like, oh, that's, it's good. Well, anyway, I mean, who knows at that point? Anthony said he loves my folks. Anthony has done the boiler work for my folks for many years, and Anthony's good people too. Frank says that Fairbanks PD does have several totaled cars at City Works that may have no extras. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's like, I can't scratch the paint because I don't have another car to drive. I don't know. At some point, though, you kind of have to make the decision you're all in or not, right? I mean, I'm just, from what I watch, I hate to second guess people who've got their life on the line out there, but it's interesting. Jeannie says he didn't want to do the paperwork. That was the thing. He didn't want to have to do the paperwork for scratching the car, or whatever. Yeah, I mean, they did a number on her car when they spun her around. Not surprising. But of course, already had other warrants already out or other. Oh man, it's interesting. My daughter was like, because we're doing the news for the local stations here, and my daughter she helps me with the news, and she's like, do we really want to do all these news stories about everybody being shot here and there? And I'm like, no, let's just focus on some of the other stuff that I'm sure. It's like a full moon, man. It's like a full moon for the last 2 weeks. It just keeps going. It's crazy. All right, well, let's get to it. Here we go. Jumping back into it, the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe. Let's do it.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Huh. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay, welcome back. Hour one of the Michael Duke Show continues on this beautiful Monday. Yes, it is dark. Somebody's like, it's dark, D-A-R-K, dark. It's okay. We're on the other side, baby. We're on the other side. We're gaining daylight. How much are we gaining? Like 45 seconds a day or something now? 1 minute a day? Pretty soon it'll get faster, but, you know, we're doing better. It's, you know, we're doing okay. What's coming up, though, is that tomorrow is the beginning of the legislative session. Now, I don't have super high hopes for this legislative session. I mean, I'll be honest with you. And although the legislators have posted all the, you know, pre-filed a bunch of bills, we were saying earlier, just over 100 bills have been pre-filed. Even though that's what, you know, even though that's going on right now, I'm not super confident that we're going to have to worry about much of that, because there's really only going to be three big bills or three big issues that are probably really going to take up a lot of oxygen in the legislature this year. And that is an increase in school funding, the return to defined benefits for a certain tranche of employees, and of course the Cook Inlet gas situation. So those are probably the ones that are going to suck up most of the oxygen in the room. But there are still a handful of other bills that are coming out. And we've got, again, another 20 that got dropped this weekend on Friday. And, you know, some interesting ones that, you know, may or may not make it through, but are at least are enough of a discussion and talking point to get through. Alaska's election system is expected to be a topic of discussion at this year's session. Now, whether or not it actually makes it through or is, you know, becomes a big sticking point is still a question. Calvin Schrage, who is an independent, I'm using air quotes here, independent, who caucuses with the Democrats and basically, you know, is part of the Democratic-led majority and everything else, has a couple measures in. One would allow voters to cure their absentee ballots. It would allow them to, if there's a problem with an absentee ballot where it doesn't have a proper signature or it doesn't have something that has the proper confirmation information on the outside of the envelope to allow the ballot to be counted, this would allow them to be contacted by the state and to have that ballot cured. Additionally, the bill would see the state pay for postage for absentee ballots, and there would be early voting even earlier. Current law says that the early voting would be 15 days ahead of the current election date. And early voting would start now, according to his bill, 30 days before the election. And Alaskans would be able to register to vote within 30 days of the election. And so this is, again, part of that first push that we've seen. Some of these measures have been talked about or put into other bills over the last couple of years. We saw Scott Kawasaki hijack. I know Sarah Vance had that voter roll bill last year that essentially it had one thing in it, and that was to try and cleanse Alaska's voter rolls in a more timely fashion. It basically made it, I think it cut it from 8 years down to 6 years, I think, or maybe it was 6 years to 4 years. It still was way too long, in my opinion. But that bill sat in committee, and Kawasaki sat on it until he basically turduckened the hell out of the bill and put a bunch of other things in it, like vote curing in 30 days and no ID and a bunch of other election stuff that they wanted to get in there. And of course, that bill then had to die in the House, forcing Sarah Vance and others who had supported the previous version of the bill to vote against their own stuff. So, I mean, I see this going on. I don't know if election reform is going to have a big impact, if it's going to have a lot of traction in this legislature. I fully feel like, again, that all the action is that, especially the more we see what's going on with the school discussions and these deficits and everything else that's going on, I fully feel like that's going to really kind of, again, dredge up and take away a lot of the horsepower from a lot of the other issues. Several other measures were announced Friday that would change Alaska's criminal code. Back in August, an Army soldier in the state was arrested and charged with possessing child pornography that was generated by AI. So didn't have actual real people, but it was still, salacious and bad stuff. The case is believed to be the first federal prosecution involving purely AI-generated imagery, according to NPR. Our own Sarah Vance down here on the peninsula introduced a bill that would criminalize AI-generated child sex abuse material in state law. She's set to serve as in the incoming Republican House minority. She also proposed a measure requiring an age verification process to download apps. And she said the goal behind the measure is to protect children from inappropriate or addictive content. Now, I know that one of the problems with a lot of this stuff, especially with apps on different devices, is that sometimes the the parental settings on the device didn't always translate into like the app store and other things. And of course, that's how you hear about stories where kids, rack up mom and dad's credit card to the tune of, $5,000 buying Pokemon cards or something on their app. And, parents are shocked, I tell you, that this happened. So, I don't really have a problem with this if you're looking for age verification on that. But, we're going to have to see what the details of the bill are. But those are the two big bills that came out that were tech-centric bills. Sarah Vance introduced both of them. Again, one putting that measure requiring an age verification process, and the other having to do with the outlawing and making it criminal statute that AI-generated imagery become criminal, which I have no problem with whatsoever. Senator Matt Clayman, who's a Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, pre-filed 3 bills on Friday. One of his measures, according to the ADN, would reform how children are kept in psychiatric hospitals and require more state oversight when they are secluded and restrained. He had similar legislation last year that failed to pass. And then Senator Elvie Gray Jackson, who, I mean, she's got a plethora. First, she introduced a measure that would amend the curriculum used by public schools to include mental health education. She was also part of that tranche that we talked about last week, where they were, changing some of the methodology and some of the different things that they were things you would think that they would already be teaching inside the school system. She also introduced legislation that would require law enforcement agencies to maintain a database that details when force is used, which I'm not against. I think that probably makes sense given what we've seen across the country over the last couple decades. With some different communities and different areas. I am for having a handle on law enforcement, having that oversight. I don't want to, I think it's important. I'm not one that's like 100% in either camp. I'm not 100% back the blue. I'm also not 100% defund the police. I believe that, each individual instance needs to be looked at, and tracking the use of force would go a long way, towards that. Especially as we look at the headlines. I was just telling the chat room during the break that my daughter helps me collate the news on a daily basis for we do local news breaks at the radio station down here. And she's like, is it just me, or is there a lot more, shooting here, shooting there? She goes, it just seems like, and so when we look at this and we see that a lot of this stuff is going on, it's not a bad thing to have a database that basically says when force was used. I think it's a good thing to track. So, good thing. Now, on the other hand, she also, we're still talking about Senator Elvie Gray Jackson of Anchorage. She also put together a measure establishing a Hispanic Heritage Month and another designating March as Women's History Month. So, apparently everybody has to have their month. But this some good. I guess we're not establishing the mosquito as the official insect of the state of Alaska or something else. In the final days of last year's legislative session, of course, the Republican-led State House passed legislation to prohibit transgendered girls from competing in girls' sports. That was not heard by the Senate this last go-around, but we do know that the U.S. House this last week passed a similar legislation on the national level with the help of people like Nick Begich. So Representative Jamie Allard, who's been a vocal supporter on social media about wanting to create a fair playing field for biological girls, she put this measure together and said it would bar transgendered girls from competing in girls' sports at public and private schools and colleges. Not again, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I think that, they should be protected in that regard as well. We've talked about this on the show before, that, again, the unfair advantage of the physiology of biological males versus biological females, to me, that just seems like a fair play thing. Like you said, even the playing field, so to speak. Jamie Allard also proposed eliminating daylight savings time. How many times do we have to try and eliminate daylight savings time before we actually get to it? President-elect Trump has said twice that the time change was inconvenient, and said the party would try to eliminate, the Republican Party. I think it's a thing that is time has come and gone, and that maybe we could get away from it, but I don't know. It to me, it's just irritating more than anything else. At least we're not doing like Hawaii does, right? Because Hawaii does not participate in daylight savings time. And so when I was much younger and I lived there for a period of time right after high school, I was like, are we 2 or 1 or 2, or how many hours are we ahead now? Because you're like, is it pro daylight? Is it after daylight savings time? Do we fall? At least we're not, at least we're participating with everybody else at this point. I would rather not have it, but, we'll see if it actually makes any headway at the national level. Who's pro? I guess my question is, who is pro daylight savings time? Who's like, oh yeah, we got to have that. We got to have that. I don't know. Maybe it makes sense. I never quite honestly saw the point. They put it together back in the day before electricity, and when, tallow candles and oil lamps were how you stayed abreast of things after dark, and so they're like, well, let's just shift it so that we're in the dark less. And now, do we really need that? I don't know, but we'll see if it actually goes anywhere. I would see if it goes anywhere. All right. We got to go. We're going to continue on here in just a moment. We got another segment with some more headlines, some of the different things that are going on around the state. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the nominees, and we will continue. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We'll be back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, fine. Jeannie says, full stop. Alaska doesn't have use of force reports? That's crazy. Backwater law enforcement. I mean, I don't know if they do or not. I mean, apparently, if they have to put a law in that basically would force that to happen, then yeah, that's, you know, I would think that would be kind of common sense, that there would be some kind of use of force database. But I mean, apparently, if they have to create a new law, apparently it's not a thing right now. It's not a thing. Let's see. Let me go back here to see what you guys are saying. Back on the car chase in Fairbanks and the pit maneuver. Anthony says, all I'm saying is that when it comes to spending money like crazy, the car chase is not the moment to save the taxpayers a buck. Yeah, if you got somebody who's out on the road dangerous like that, that's not the time to save them. That's not the time to try and save taxpayers a few dollars on a paint job or a fender bender. Just get them off the road. That's what you need to do there. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let's go forward. Thought she was dead. Thought who was dead? Oh, I don't know. I don't know who Brian was talking about there. Anthony says, look, man, we don't have enough daylight per capita to be trying to budget it out. Leave the sun alone. Weird time math police. Oh, that's right. Arizona doesn't either. That's right. I forgot. Arizona doesn't participate in daylight savings time either. Yeah, I just, you know, it just seems like we don't really, you know, again, when Ben Franklin was around and they didn't have a lot of, steady light sources, and you're like, we want to shift the evening and it makes sense. I could see what was going on, but now we don't need to do that. I just, it's pretty much dark no matter what. What difference does that 1 hour make up here when it's already dark all the time? Who supports daylight savings time? Brian says, radio talk show host, because it always generates phone calls and controversial discussions. I could, there's so many other things that we could talk about other than daylight savings time. I mean, they could get rid of it and I would be a happy man. They would, that would be a happy man. Yeah. Biden just pardoned General Miley, Fauci, and Cheney. He just pardoned them, what, proactively? Like they haven't even really been just, wow. Okay. LV Gray Jackson is who she thought. Brian says she thought she was dead. I didn't know she was still around. Yep. She's still here, still kicking, still making it happen. All right. Scrolling through here. Rick says no new bills on any discussion until they settle the PFD issue. Why would they do that, Rick? Why would they want to do that? I mean, this gives them access to to most of the cookie jar from the earnings reserve account. Why would they want to do? They don't want to settle that discussion. They want to continue. Senator Rob Myers says there was a bill or two to eliminate daylight savings time 6 or 8 years ago. The business community came out against it because they didn't want to be 5 hours off the East Coast for much of the year. Yeah, I mean, this would have to really, like I said, I found that to be kind of weird when I lived in Hawaii and they did that, because you're like, what time of year is it? Are they 3 or 4 or whatever? I mean, yeah. I mean, I could see what it is. It would have to be something that kind of is coordinated across the country. They just, you know what? They should just shut it all down. Just shut down the whole daylight savings time across the country, and then you never have to worry about it again. Never have to worry about it. Let's see. We haven't needed, Jeannie says, we haven't needed daylight savings time since we had street lights. Anthony said, when Ben Franklin was around, they'd give pregnant women cocaine for headaches and slap leeches on you if demons got you, not using them as the gold standard on how to tell time. I mean, I think that's kind of the point. Yeah, I think Rick's right. I think that's kind of the point at this thing. You know, it was great for back in the day, but now maybe we should be, moving into a different direction. All right. We got to go. We're going to jump back into this here. Please like and share, like and follow, ring the bell, do all that kind of stuff. We're going to continue on. Hour 2 is dead ahead. We're going to talk about that Community Connect thing and the event that's going on across the state. Get some good intro on that. Let's go. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Let's do this.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Michael Duke Show is going to be coming up here in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking with the ladies who are coordinating this whole statewide, and I guess nationwide. It's a nationwide event, this Community Connect event for folks who are veterans or homeless and everything else. It's going on across the state. We're going to give you the full rundown on that. And we're going to be talking with them in hour 2 here, a little bit at the top of the hour, to get the full rundown and details for various communities across the state as we go through. Meanwhile, here we've got more stories that are going on across the state and across the country. Lots of different discussions about the impact of the new administration and the incoming plans of the president. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 different stories right now, just on the ADN alone, talking about the series of day 1 executive orders. There's another story about executive orders aimed at the federal workforce. There's a third story about the career State Department diplomats who are going to resign before the inauguration. I mean, there's a lot of hand-wringing going on right now. All I know is this: regardless of who was getting into the White House, we'll be here tomorrow, right? We'll be here tomorrow, and the next day we'll make it through one way or the other. It's this, it's not the end of the world, depending on which side of the fence you sit on. It's not the end of the world that this is happening. Whether you agree or disagree with what the current president or the incoming president believes, we're still going to be here tomorrow. Still going to happen. We'll make it. We shall overcome, is what I'm saying. Some of the other stories, though, are kind of interesting. One is talking about the shortfall. I was looking for the word. Boy, I almost lost my mind there. I was looking for the shortfall. Remember, we were just talking about how Fairbanks, the school board in Fairbanks, was facing deficit spend, and how the KPB, now the Kenai Peninsula Borough, was also facing a significant deficit spend. And I made some kind of comment about, geez, I wonder how Mat-Su is doing, because the Mat-Su, generally speaking, has been pretty good about their budget. I got that story answered. Amy Bouchatz has got a piece in the Mat-Su Sentinel that she wrote here a couple days ago, talking about how the school board is now considering major changes to their homeschool and correspondence program. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But first, since it is Inauguration Day and the president's got a bunch of people up in front of Congress for nominations and confirmations, I thought we'd touch on this from Must Read. On the same day that Senator Lisa Murkowski said she would not commit to voting to confirm any of President Trump's nominees for his cabinet because she was learning about them, she said she supports former North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum for Secretary of the Department of the Interior. During an Energy and Natural Resources Committee hearing to consider his nomination, she and the governor discussed Alaska's energy and mineral potential and the need for the department to dramatically improve its approach in the state. She was then quoted as saying, "I don't want the Department of Interior to be a landlord. I want them to be a partner." Hearing the governor say that he views Alaska as, quote, one of the biggest assets in this country, unquote, has been a breath of fresh air after the last 4 years. She said, "I'd look forward to working with Governor Burgum to unleash the energy and resource opportunities that Alaska possesses." The Burgum and Energy Secretary nominee Chris Wright were two of the nominees that she was effusive about back in December. But last week, when she was asked by reporters, she said she was not committing to any nominee because it was too early in the process, which, I mean, I guess. I don't know if she's, sometimes I don't know if she's being cagey or if she's being coy. I can't quite tell. I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure her out. She is, sometimes she's a bit of a conundrum. Like sometimes you think, well, that would be kind of an easy win politically. But she just kind of goes her own road and does what she wants to do. But apparently she is going to at least be supporting a couple of the nominees. Now, whether or not she'll be 100% behind all the nominees, she's not even saying at this point. But it looks like that a lot of the Trump nominees, although they've faced some pretty brutal questioning in the confirmation hearings, and if you haven't been watching or listening to it, boy, bring your popcorn because it makes for some good listening. I mean, there are some interesting exchanges going on in there. But it looks like the majority of the Trump nominees are going to make it through this process, which I think is kind of interesting considering the pulling out all the stops maneuvers that you're seeing happen in these committees overall. But Murkowski said she now supports Doug Burgum as the Secretary of the Department of the Interior, which I guess is one of the major big hurdling blocks for that nomination process as well. All right, let's go back over to, I just mentioned the Mat-Su School Board. A lot of people hold up the Mat-Su as a example of a school district that is being run correctly, I guess, is what I would say. A lot of times people are like, well, look at the Mat-Su. They've done so well with their money. They're doing so good. And then I see this headline. Mat-Su School Board considers shakeup of homeschool correspondence program as the district faces a $22 million shortfall. So they're thinking about splitting out their homeschooling correspondence school program into two different programs, essentially. One would be the original correspondence program with optional in-person classes, similar to what they're doing right now. So it'd be very close to what's going on right now. The other part would be a hybrid brick and mortar program that would maintain the district's current high school graduation standards while introducing a new part-time in-person class requirement. Now, they say part of this has to do with the funding shortfall. They're short of money. They're short of doing. Basically, what they've been saying is, look, a lot of these kids are spending a lot of time in school, even though they're on a correspondence program. They are still spending a lot of time in the actual classroom at the school. And they're basically saying, well, if they're here, then we should get paid as if they are here in the classroom. He said, according to Dick Trainey, he said, think about the 500 kids who regularly attend classes at Matsu Central. If they're regularly attending, why are we not getting the money for their regular attendance in a brick and mortar environment? That was the thing. But let me tell you what really stood out to me in this article, talking about all these various things. This is the paragraph that stood out to me. District officials estimate a funding shortfall of $22 million next year if operations are kept at the current levels. So first of all, if operations are kept at the current levels. So, I mean, that does intimate that they could reduce the levels if they want to keep going. That's like saying I could have a shortfall next year of $50,000 if I kept my spending at my current level, but my paycheck dropped by $50,000, but I could still keep going if I just wanted to keep living that lifestyle. District officials estimate a shortfall of $22 million next year if operations are kept at current levels. The gap is tied to rising costs, stagnant state funding, and the expiration of $17 million in annual federal COVID aid. Okay, say it with me now. Didn't they tell you when they were putting that COVID money out there? I mean, here we are 5 years later. We're 5 years beyond the COVID outbreak. Next month, the end of next month, it will be 5 years since COVID really broke on the scene, right? And they told us when they put these monies out and they said, this is one-time stuff. This is not going to last forever. Don't spend it on reoccurring costs. Don't do it. The expiration of $17 million in annual COVID federal funding, federal aid. You knew this was, and I love how they threw the stagnant state funding in there, even though we had the largest one-time funding increase in education ever last year. And even after the vetoes, it was significant. They're just, they're just going on and on about why do we continue to hurt ourselves? We know that money wasn't permanent. Why do we continue to do that? It makes no sense. No business or household would run themselves that way. You don't bet on the if-come. Oh, so tough. All right, we got to go. Hour 2 is dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay. All right. Maths is hard. Yeah. Why hang your hat on COVID aid? I mean, and especially since, God love them, the federal government, there was actually guidance from the government when they put that stuff out that said, don't use this for reoccurring costs. Don't use this for reoccurring costs. And what happened? Whoa, man. What happened in the Anchorage School District? They immediately used it to offset reoccurring costs. That's the problem. We'll still be here tomorrow, says Fat Ray. Did you account for global warming before you made that proclamation? Yeah. Yeah, I just did. Okay. I'm just scrolling through here. Vote harder and wash it, said Bill. Thanks, Bill. Joel says, either way, she's getting primaried. He's talking about Murkowski. Do you think so? Do you really think so? There have been so many times when I thought that she was vulnerable and she's like the Teflon Don. She just keeps coming back. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I would ever say that anymore. There's no guarantee of anything. There were times when I thought that's it. She's going to be gone. And then I was proven incorrect. I mean, I don't believe it. Don't believe it. All right. Let me see here. The ladies from Community Connect should be joining us here in just a moment. And we'll be diving. I just want to make sure I got everything squared away here. That it's the right thing. Yep. Oh, that's right. Okay. Just want to make sure. Let's see. Frank says, I guess not one person elected to a school district in Alaska has passed a class in budgeting. There's a lot of finger pointing that could go on back and forth, but when you have a shortfall coming and that there's a decline in enrollment and that some of these monies are going to run out, you have to get ahead of the power curve. You have to start ahead of time, right? To set up that glide slope. A lot of times a plane can glide quite a ways if something bad is happening and it's you're about to lose power. You could set it up properly rather than just yoinking the thrust back and having the flight characteristics of a brick. A lot of times you could set up a glide path if you're properly prepared. And it just seems like everybody's like, oh, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just pull back on that thrust. It'll be fine. It's interesting for sure. Just going back through here. Let's see. Okay. I'm caught up on some of the comments here and what's going on. Oh, all right. You guys ready for hour 2? Let's see. What do we got? We got about 3 minutes here. I see Jody has joined us. Jody's in the chat room here this morning. She's in the green room, rather, hanging out and waiting. We're waiting for Bryn and Dorotha to join us, and we'll have all 3 of the ladies on board to talk about the Community Connect event going on across the state, and we'll get that going on. We'll keep things going. You should do an overtime show today. No, thanks. We're going to cover what we can cover here in the state. We'll let the national news guys cover all the national news. That again, I have a little interest in all the hand wringing and everything else that's going on around all the other national stuff. Let's focus on the state stuff that we can contribute to, and that really affects us directly here right now. We'll see where that goes. Okay. I'm just scrolling backwards here to see if there's any major comments that I missed here. I still think daylight savings time. I still think that daylight savings time could be it probably would save us. Well, I don't know if it would save us any money. In fact, I don't even really care if it would save us money. It would probably just make life easier. How many people get stressed out over, I think, thank goodness for cell phones. Most of us who are using our cell phones now as our main alarm clocks or whatever else, at least they automatically update in the middle of the night, on the daylight. So you forget to spring forward or fall back or whatever. I mean, at least that I haven't missed a day of work or an hour of work because I overslept or underslept on my daylight savings time since I started using my phone as my alarm clock. Thank goodness for that, I guess. I don't know if it would save us any time or money, but it sure would be easier if we just didn't have to deal with it. But again, I agree with what I think Jeannie was saying earlier, or Rob Myers was saying earlier, that it has to be the whole country. We can't be 5 hours ahead or 5 hours behind part of the year and 4 hours behind the other part. That would just be too confusing. All right, waiting for our other guests to show up here. We're jumping back into it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Here we go, hour 2.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That's just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and across the great state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station, and or FM translator, wherever you're listening to it, whether it's all the way up in Fairbanks or down on the peninsula or any place in between. Welcome back to the big radio program. Thank you for participating and being part of it. Today is Monday, Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, and Inauguration Day, all wrapped up into one. So lots of stuff happening. Many folks who are out relaxing today and enjoying some variety of the different areas here. We are getting ready to jump in and join us. I see that we have a couple of our guests who are ready this morning, and one more who's trying to join us on the telephone as well, which I wasn't expecting. Let me see if I can connect. Everything here and get it all squared away at the last minute here. Let's see if we can do this. Okay. All right. There we go. Good morning. We are in hour 2, and we're about to talk to 3 different ladies who are working diligently around the state to bring the community together in what we're calling the Community Connect event. There's actually a full bitter name, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. But it's an event to help folks around the state who have maybe not have access to different services and things like that, to help veterans and homeless and everything else. So we're jumping into it this morning. Let's get started, and we'll bring on to the program 3 of the different ladies who are here to help us as well. On the phone with us right now is also Bryn Butler. Can you hear me, Bryn? Can you hear me, Bryn? All right. Bryn just hung up. She was on the phone, but now she's working. She's trying to get in. Bryn Butler from Fairbanks is also going to be calling in here this morning. But let's get started, and we will talk about this event, and we'll talk with a couple of the ladies who are working on it. Joining me right now by a phone or by StreamYard is Jody Stewart and Dorotha Ferraro. Jody is up in the central Kenai. Dorotha is down on the lower Kenai. And I think you ladies have muted yourself. I see your little mute icon there. Feel free to unmute and start. We'll start with Jody. Good morning, Jody. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
You know, it's just a beautiful Monday. I mean, we're still here. It's still a little dark, but it's okay. It's a little warm, and we're getting ready to do it. Thanks for coming in. Jody, tell us, who you are and what your title is.
Certainly. So my name's Jody Stewart. I am with the Central Kenai Peninsula's Project Homeless Connect. Today, that's what I'm representing, and I am the group's PR person, for lack of a better word.
Right, you're the talking head for the group because nobody else wants to talk on
exactly.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
We're also joined by Dorotha Ferraro, who is down here in the Homer area. Dorotha, tell us what you do here.
You bet. Good morning. And I would say that your numbers would be higher for people wanting to talk if it wasn't 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. But anyway.
Come on. This is easy. I've been doing this for years. I mean, it's no big deal. I've been up for 3 hours. What are you guys doing?
I am. I am impressed. So
Hey,
good morning, everybody. I'm Dorotha Ferrero, and I also am the spokesperson for our, we call it Community Resource Connect. We'll get to that later. So I am also the spokesperson for the events on the Southern Peninsula, Homer and Anchor Point. And my full-time job is I'm the Director of Public Relations for South Peninsula Hospital, and the hospital is one of the committee members of the event.
Okay, great. And I see that Bryn has made it in here this morning, so let's bring Bryn in. Good morning, Bryn. How are you?
Good morning. I'm glad to finally be here. I tried
Yeah.
a couple different ways of getting in here, but I'm glad to see you guys.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you as well. And Bryn, what's your position there in Fairbanks? What's your official title there?
I'm the housing coordinator for the city of Fairbanks, and I also work in conjunction with the Fairbanks Housing and Homeless Coalition.
Okay. All right, good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Community Connect event. And we'll start off, since Dorotha brought this to my attention to begin with, let's start off with Dorotha, and we'll talk about what the event is and what does it mean down here on the peninsula, on the lower peninsula. What are we doing? Dorotha, tell us what's happening here on the 28th of January.
Well, we are hosting Community Resource Connect, and it is happening in multiple locations on the Kenai Peninsula, in the state of Alaska, as well as the nation. So it's really important to understand that we're just one zip code amongst many nationwide that on the 28th will be offering some level of this event. The beauty of it is that the framework is that you get to modify it to however it works for your town, your county, your community. So specifically on the Southern Peninsula, we'll be offering two locations. One is Homer and one is Anchor Point. And the purpose is to connect people who are in need, homeless, depending on where you are in the nation, or houseless, or nearly or facing that risk in the immediate future. So we just try to make sure that we can help individuals who might be facing homelessness or are help them to connect to resources that will help improve their situation.
And what are some of those resources? I mean, we're talking about healthcare resources, obviously, but also other things that may, especially people who are on the verge, as you were talking about.
And so the resources are different from event to event. So I'm representing now the Homer and a little bit the Anchor Point, because Anchor Point doesn't have 100% of what the Homer event has. So number one, there's tangibles. There's giveaways such as hygiene packs, backpacks, cold weather gear, tents, tarps, even a shopping area, where you can actually go shopping for diapers and pet food and supplies and just like things. And then the other offerings are services and connection. And that's the most important, because sometimes if you're facing homelessness, you don't have the extra money for an extra cab ride to show up at an office during their office hours, right? And so having all of these services and connectors under one roof at the same time just really streamlines those. So the types of connections are things like the hospital's financial counselors to help enroll people into Medicaid or the marketplace, or if they're not insured, to help them get insured. Sprout Family Services to help enroll children into preschool activities. SVT Health and Wellness. The Division of Public Assistance will be there to help people sign up for assistance programs. So just lots of enrollments, if you will. So connections to services, lots of tangibles, and lots of connections, because we have I think over 30 volunteers that'll be there helping, assisting, eating lunch with people. There will be free lunch at the Homer and Anchor Point locations. So it's just a real rounded event.
Kind of a clearinghouse where you can all come together in one location and make it all happen.
Excellent word. I like that.
Yeah. Let's go up and talk with Bryn from the Fairbanks area, a few hundred miles north here, a little bit different, like Dorotha said, that each location has different things available. Bryn, what are you guys and who are you serving up there as well?
So we don't call it Community Connect. We call it Project Homeless Connect. That's normally what it's called around the nation. And it supplements the HUD point in time count. So the point in time count is where we come together and we count all the unsheltered folks in the nation and all the people that are in emergency shelter during that time. And so we are able to give accurate numbers to HUD so we can hopefully get the correct amount of funding up here for our homeless population. So that is the reason that point in time is done. That is the reason that Project Homeless Connect is done the day after. So that night count is the 27th. And then the day that Project Homeless Connect is the day after, so we can supplement that count for anybody that we may not have been able to count, because we want to get accurate representation so we get the accurate amount of funding up here, which we all know is a little bit lacking. A little bit is an understatement. In Fairbanks, we are offering, we have Beyond the Mirror that is going to be offering free haircuts again for their 4th year in a row. We really appreciate their support. We're going to have the health center and the health fair, public nurses that are going to be doing screenings. We're going to have a nurse up here to do foot care from Tanana Chiefs Conference. Then we have a bunch of agencies that are going to be here for like some giveaways, some resources. We're going to have connections to housing resources. I'm not going to say that we don't have direct access to housing, but we can help people with connections. And then we're going to have Breadline is offering lunch. And I mean, there's lots of them, but that's like the gist of it is that, right. And bus passes. We're going to do bus passes.
Oh, okay. And what's is there? You guys have a website where you have everything laid out for what's happening in Fairbanks as well? It's on
our Facebook page, and it should be on our website.
Okay.
No, I can't promise you it's there, but I hope it's there.
you hope somebody did their job. Let's go over to Jody, who's down in the Central Peninsula, and talk with Jody. Again, each community has something a little different going on, but all kind of facing and trying to serve the same cause. Jody, tell us a little bit about what's going on in the Central Peninsula.
So again, on the 28th, we will be having it at the Soldotna Regional Sports Center. We will have free transportation to and from the event. So individuals that are on the central area, and that pretty much goes all the way from Kasilof to Sterling and everything in between, all the way out to Nikiski. We'll have folks coming in all over the place. So Alaska Cab partners with us, Central Area Rural Transit System, which is our public transit system here in the central area, partners with us, provides free rides for that event to and from it. We have, I'm going to say, probably close to 30 different agencies that comes out to provide services and or resources, things like sober living. We have Love Inc. of the Central Kenai Peninsula that comes out. They are our housing clearinghouse. We also have public health, similar to Fairbanks, and Homer and Anchor Point. So we have a lot of various resources. All of our state agencies come out and participate. So that would be, you know, our DVR, Job Center, SNAP, all of the representations for individuals that need that extra assistance to support them as they struggle.
And you guys have again, is there kind of a clearinghouse of information for who has what where? Do you guys have a website or a Facebook page where you've got the event together?
We do. So part of the process for Project Homeless Connect is just one aspect of it, and Bryn kind of touched on it, right? So the Kenai Peninsula, we have what's called the Kenai Peninsula Continuum of Care, which is the all-encompassing organization that represents all of our housing insufficiencies, whether that is through domestic violence, whether that is through no fault of the individuals. It's an organization that is brought in by all of the agencies that represent vulnerable populations. So the continuum of care is what brings in the funding through HUD. So you can't have funding through HUD without the continuum of care. So we have the Kenai Peninsula Continuum of Care Facebook page. And then we also have the housing and homelessness website for the Kenai Peninsula. So if you Google Kenai Peninsula housing and homelessness, it'll come up, and all of the information for this event is there, as well as information about the continuum of care.
All right, we're going to continue with the ladies here in just a second. We've got to jump over to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have kind of a wrap up and summation of the different things and just kind of a reminder how you can help. If you want to help volunteer or participate in some other way to help those less fortunate, now's the time to do it. We will continue here in just a second. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common Sense, Liberty Bay's Free Thinking Radio. We got more coming up to continue to talk about the Community Connect event or the Homeless Connect event, depending on where you are. We'll talk about it, but it's going on statewide on the 28th of January. We'll have more on that here when we return. Don't go anywhere. Back with more in just a moment.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we are in the commercial break right now. Getting ready to talk with the ladies for just a few minutes here as we continue on, and then we will finish up with them and kind of give each one a second bite at the apple, so to speak, to pitch their event and to tell folks how to find out more. We'll get to that here in just a second. We will, this is it's a tough situation. When I think of homelessness, especially in having just moved from, I lived in Wasilla, which has got a pretty significant especially homeless youth population. And then seeing what was going on in Anchorage, where our office is there for the stations in Anchorage was right next to a pretty good size homeless population. There's a big issue. But when I thought about that, I thought, man, being in Fairbanks and being homeless, because, I spent 45 years in Fairbanks, that's a whole different critter. I mean, when it's 35 and 40 below and, that must be tough. You guys must be facing some unique challenges up there, Bryn, when you guys are dealing with that homelessness issue up there. Tell us about some of the unique challenges in the Fairbanks area with that.
Well, you're absolutely right. When it's 40 below, it's hard to go to sleep in my house knowing that there are people out there that are freezing. We're really grateful this year that Fairbanks HopeLink was able to find a location to rent. So they are a warming center that is open from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. every day of the week. And so they are able to accept people to come in and stay there and warm up. And I think if they're not at capacity, then they are able to keep them there overnight. It's not a shelter, but they're able to stay overnight. And we're really grateful that they were able to finally find a place to rent. But I mean, Fairbanks is a different beast. I often think that people should probably go somewhere warmer if they want to choose homelessness over and over. But, that's just me. We just give out as many hand warmers as we can and as many foot warmers as we can and keep offering those services and hope that somebody takes them.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, that would be a tough place to try and make that happen. Dorotha, I know that you are tied in obviously with the healthcare aspect of this, being with the South Peninsula Hospital, and of course, I think somebody mentioned the foot care and some of the other things that we probably don't necessarily think about. Folks who have. It's not something that I would consider like foot care. I wouldn't think, well, that would be a big deal, but it can be when you are basically living in your same clothes for a long time. It's definitely a challenge, right?
It is. And it's those, I don't want to say little, it's those types of services and attention to care that can help prevent hospitalization. And, we can turn our backs and wait till somebody knocks on the door at the hospital, right? Or we can try to get out in front of it and help people get connected to care in advance so that it does not escalate as far as their physical well-being. But we all know that health is bigger than just the physical well-being, and it's pretty impossible to improve a disease if you don't have running water or access to water or heat or dry places. And it's just all one really, really big package. Your physical health is related to your home environment, is related to your mental health. It's all put together.
Well, and I know that mental health services, that there's in many of these cases, there is a mental health component. And I mean, I'm hoping that there is something that offers folks, Jody, I mean, what kind of services are being offered for the mental health component of this? Because I know that's a big factor in a lot of these cases.
Well, first, I want to say that the event itself is an aspect of mental health care. It is a moment where people can come and be a part of the community, be accepted for what they are, and with no questions asked, and provided kindness and care, and probably the first time in a while. So that's one aspect of mental health care. Yes, we have additional services, PCHS, which is our community health center that's federally funded. They provide mental health care. We have our recovery groups. So
Hold on, Jody. I'm sorry. We're about to rejoin.
Sure.
I'm a slave to the clock here. So we're about to rejoin. So let's jump back into it. And then we'll give you ladies the round robin here on the way out. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense, Liberty-Based, Free Thicket Radio. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
That guy is so mean to me. I don't understand what I did to him, but welcome back to the program. The Michael Duke Show continues. One final segment here. We're talking with three different ladies, three different events, all for the same type of cause in three different areas around the state. Jody Stewart, Bryn Butler, Dorotha Ferraro talks with us about the Community Connect events, the Homeless Connect events in Fairbanks, part of a big national push to try and help those who are homeless around the country, all on the same day. It's all taking place on January the 28th in the various communities around the state. So we're going to kind of do a round robin here before we let the ladies go, kind of a final pitch for what's going on and how we can help. Is there anything that the community can do outside of, donating time or money or participating or whatever else it is? So we'll start from closest to me to furthest away. How about that? So we'll start with Dorotha, who's here in the Homer area at South Peninsula Hospital, and we'll get her rundown first, and of course how people can find out more about it. So Dorotha, who you are, where you are, what you're offering, how do folks participate? Go ahead and give it to me here.
Thank you. So on the Southern Peninsula, there are two locations. The Homer location is Spark. It's the recreation center there on the Sterling Highway. And the Anchor Point location is the VFW. And it's Tuesday, January 28th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's open to anybody. If we said something on here that was of interest to you, like, hey, I really always, I've been trying to figure out how to get connected to WIC or food stamps or whatever, just come on over. I mean, we've got lots of resources. It's open to anybody. If you are facing homelessness, though, we would ask you to take the time when you're there to fill out the enrollment paperwork, because that paperwork is what Bryn was talking about that helps the nationwide count and helps with future HUD funding. So budget some time that you're going to be there for a little longer than maybe you thought to be able to fill out to complete some of that paperwork. So the Homer and Anchor Point locations both offer free transportation. It all depends on where you are. I won't bore you with phone numbers right now. Our Facebook page and the hospital's website has phone numbers, and all the flyers around town have phone numbers on them for where to call if you need help with transportation. Yes, we do still need volunteers and donations. So we have a couple locations on the Southern Peninsula that are accepting donated new tents, sleds, batteries, water jugs, pet supplies, menstrual products, gently used, clean sleeping bags, sleeping pads, backpacks, and winter gear. You can take those in the Anchor Point area to the Cheeky Moose, and in the Homer area to Ketchimack City Council Building, Ketchimack City Building, Community Building, and Coop's Coffee on East End Road. And then if you would like to volunteer, you can call Annie, our health and wellness nurse educator. Annie is 235-0285. or just call the hospital and ask to talk to Annie in Health and Wellness, and we'll get you connected. So next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, January 28th, Homer at Spark, Anchor Point at the VFW, 11 to 3.
All right, Dorothy, thanks so much. We'll move a little bit north up to the Central Peninsula. Jody Stewart, your elevator pitch here for everything that's going on. How do folks participate? Where do they find out? What do we need to do?
So our event will be at the Soldotna Sports Center. It will be from 9 until 4. The last folks checking in will be at 3. Gives them about an hour before we wrap up. Free transportation as well. If folks are interested, you can find more information on the Kenai Peninsula Continuum of Care Facebook page or the Kenai Peninsula Housing and Homelessness website at www.KenaiPeninsulaHousingAndHomelessness.org. Very long. All sorts of resources will be there. We'll have free food in the morning, so breakfast and lunch, and we'll have food to take as well. We have a slew of vendors, over 30, I think is the last count. And then as far as volunteering and or donating, we are at this point flush for volunteers. And so really what we're encouraging folks to do is think about how you can potentially donate. You can donate cash through Bridges Community Resources, which is on the Spur Highway. If you would like more information, you can certainly reach out to anyone on our Facebook and or webpage. But also besides that, anything as far as like clothes, and because that's kind of what we all think about is, clothing for winter, right? Those donations can go to Bishop's Attic here in Soldotna, and they will be giving free vouchers for folks to come in throughout the rest of the winter, which is really nice. So that way people can pick up full outfits, full winter gear throughout the rest of the winter.
All right. So another thing that I hadn't really thought about, but you're right. Another thing, the winter gear, probably most important, especially as things get wet and cold, and then wet and cold, and then wet and cold, but especially up in the Fairbanks area too, that the clothes are probably super important. Jody Stewart, again, from the Central Peninsula. Let's move all the way up to Fairbanks and finish up with Bryn Butler up in Fairbanks. Yeah, I mean, homelessness at, anything below zero got to be tough. But when you start to get to 20, 30 below, I hadn't even considered about the clothing. Bryn, your final thoughts here, and where it's going to be and how folks find out more. And if they want to volunteer or donate, what do we do?
So we are offering, so our event is the 28th at the JP Jones Center. And we are open from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we have all of the sorts of things that everybody else just talked about. We also have free haircuts, and we're going to be offering, lots of support, food, things of that nature. And of course, monetary donations are always great. And we accept monetary donations through the North Star Community Foundation, which we're a proud member of. But I want to talk about the more emotional things somebody can do for somebody that's experiencing homelessness. And that's really friendly interactions. Like when you see people, it doesn't have to be on the 28th. Make eye contact, a friendly nod. Don't divert eye contact. Just be kind, right? Kindness goes a long way with people who are experiencing homelessness. Simply take the time to listen, acknowledge, like I said, acknowledge somebody's presence. Just make them feel seen and respected. And ultimately, that starts a healing process, right? When you're just used to being shunned. So, and if you hear a stigma around the community about all homelessness people are bad and things of that sort, take time to educate the community that that's not the case, and that we are all, most of us are one paycheck away from being homeless. And so that's how I think that we could probably help the most in our community.
And is again a place to go to find out more about this? You said was on your Facebook page or the city page, or
yeah, and the coalition webpage, which is fairbankshomeless.org, and then the City of Fairbanks and the City of Fairbanks web Facebook page as well.
Okay. All right. Dorothy, I see she's got her hand up. You don't have to hold your hand up, Dorothy. You can just say something. What's on your mind there as you go?
I just want to give a shout out to all the partners, because at all these locations throughout the state and throughout the nation, it is lots of players and partners coming together on the same day at the same time to make it happen. And so many people are donating things. Like too many to say now on the radio, but so many agencies and individuals are making donations to make it happen. So really grateful for all the cooperation to put it together.
Well, and I'm glad it is. One of the things that I've said on this program many times is that I wish I had a magic ball. I wish I had a magic wand, some kind of solution to this. I don't have a solution to it. Obviously we have a critical, to me, the common thread that I see in a lot of this is that there's a mental health component along with a financial component, and those two things crash together, and usually it creates something catastrophic. I would hope that we can find a way out of this. We can look at communities that have taken ground in this fight as far as homelessness, different communities around the country that have had some success, and we could model some of the things that we're doing in the future off of those communities. And so I hope that we continue to look in this direction. I think this is a good thing, again, giving these people an opportunity to at least experience some of the benefits of society that that we may take for granted. Like I said, I wasn't even thinking about foot care or haircuts. How would it be to not be able to have your haircut for months at a time and no access to a pair of clippers or something, simple as that. It's a tough situation. And like I said, I wish I had a magic wand and I could figure it out and just, wave it and we could fix this problem. But it's something that's been getting worse in many communities. And I think simply throwing money at the issue has not been fixing that. We could see what's going on in LA and other places to see that that's a big deal. Seattle, this is something that's going to take a much broader brush, a much broader approach, and we're going to have to look at it more holistically. It's not simply a money issue for sure. So community events like this across the state, across the country, hopefully help. I hope that there are more private partners as well. Somebody in the chat room mentioned Love Inc. and some of the other community organizations that have done a lot of good work. I don't think that this is, again, a simple one-size-fits-all solution. It's not just a government solution. It's a private solution. It's us in the community reaching out and doing what we can do in volunteer time, even something as simple as like spreading the word here on the radio show. Hopefully we're doing some good somewhere with this stuff. So ladies, again, thank you for coming on board. I'll give you each one final bite at the apple here, and we'll work in reverse order here. We'll start with Bryn. One final bite before I let you go. Bryn.
I don't know if I have an extra bite.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling me and talking me into this.
Yeah. Well,
even at 7:05 in the morning.
It's so hard. You guys in your 7:05 in the morning. What is this? Come on. We can do this. We got it. It's all going on. Jody, what she's the only one that hasn't complained about it being 7:05 in the morning.
I'm up early in the morning every day, so that's no big deal for me. But I guess the only last soundbite I would throw out there is really the reiteration that we are just one major life event away from homelessness, and it's something that has been stigmatized for a very, very long time. And so taking the perspective that what happens when I have too many medical bills, I've had, my spouse leave me, I've had a catastrophic event happen, and then suddenly your life changes. And so going back to what Bryn said, be kind. We are all in this big, gerbil wheel of a life. And the least we can do, especially going into 2025, let's just be kind.
Yeah, well, I think it doesn't matter what year we're going into. We should all just be kind anyway, one way or the other. Thank you, Jody. Finally, Dorotha Ferrara down here in the home area. Dorotha, final bite. What you got for me? Give me words of wisdom. Pump me up.
Well, if you are listening and there's not an event like this in your community, maybe reach out to your hospital, your city, a large nonprofit, and see if they would be willing to take it on in future years, because the framework's really easy. The help just explodes as you start to talk about it, and it's a really great community event. I mean, when we do it, it's just as Bryn and Jody both said, it's hugely social and interactive, and just a great day as far as helping people connect to the things that they need. So I wish that every town could experience it, and I hope that people are getting the help that they need while they are there, even if it is just the social aspect for the afternoon.
It's a tough subject. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It makes them worry. There are stigmas for sure. And then there's the question of those of us who are for smaller, kind of more limited government at the same time, worrying that there's not enough private involvement in it. But I mean, it's such a complex issue. It's, again, there's no soundbite to fix all this in one fell swoop. That's the problem. But each one of these little things that these ladies are doing and these other events are doing, everything's taking a little bite at it. So hopefully we're going to be able to continue to help out. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on board. Again, it is the Community Connect or Homeless Connect event going on the 28th in Fairbanks on the Central Peninsula, down here on the Southern Peninsula. I know that they're doing something in Anchorage as well, but wherever it is, you can find out more about it just by Googling the event. And it'll start on Tuesday, the 28th, anywhere from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., depending on what area of the state you're in. And you could check it out. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on board and joining us. We appreciate you being part of it this morning.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we are coming up against the break. It's time to jump into the final segment. That's dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the commercial break here, and we're coming up onto the final segment of the show this morning. You know, as I was saying earlier, I mean, again, this is an issue that we've tackled on the program a couple different times, several different times. And the bottom line is that I don't have answers for how to fix this. I mean, we've seen communities from LA to Seattle and other places pour billions of dollars into this program, into programs to try and combat this problem. In some cases, it ends up building, instead of kind of fixing the problem, it instead seems to build an industry around the problem instead. And Jeannie says, she makes a point in the chat room saying that by making it federally funded, you're creating jobs for people. That money could be better used in community resources instead of creating living wages for non-local people. And I don't even know if it's creating living wages for non-local people, but if you're trying to solve a problem, one of the ways that you're not going to solve a problem by creating an industry to serve that problem, because it's in the interest of that industry. I guess I don't want to, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on anybody that's doing this, but it's in the interest of the industry to not solve they don't want to work themselves out of a job. Maybe people really care and want to fix it. Don't get me wrong. But as a whole, the industry, this megalithic, kind of bureaucracy, doesn't necessarily want to work its way out of a job. And so it stumbles. I mean, again, billions of dollars in California alone on this issue. So I don't know. I don't think that there's a one size fits all scenario, but I mean, we need to look at places like, what was the place we were talking about here last year? Austin, Texas. They've done quite a bit with their homeless community and transitioning people from homelessness back into society and into housing and doing their own thing and and again, the mental health aspect of this is a huge component of it as well. Where we need better access, and these folks need better access to that kind of healthcare. It's crazy to watch. But we're seeing all that stuff kind of go on here. Oh, let me fix this. I got to fix something here real quick. 2 and 3. All right. Sorry. We're going to try and fix that there. Had a bit of a problem. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. Okay. I think we got it. All right. All right. So anyway, it's it's problematic, to say the least. It's a problem, and I want to solve it. I mean, I hate to see people who are out there facing these kind of problems. I mean, I dislike it. It hurts my soul to think about. And I think it has to be, again, a holistic solution. Warren says Alaska never ever had this many homeless folks. So what changed, and how can we get back to the way it was for people? I don't know. I mean, is part of this because the governments have gotten involved in funding it? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I mean, I know some people have pointed back to the fact that we've lost a lot of our institutionalized mental health care that would have kept some of these people off the streets before. That's part of this, as part of the problem. Is it that it's become more of an industry, or whatever? But the bottom line is, these people are hurting. We've got to find a way to help them and get them back on their feet and back into society, right? That's part of the problem there. And I don't know what the solution is. I really don't. I wish I did. I wish I had an answer to it. But this is one of those few questions where I just, few conundrums out there that I just don't really have a fixed answer for, right? Some things I'm just like, well, you could cut, or you could spend, or you could do this, or you could do that. And this is like, I'm not sure what the solution is. I really am not sure. But I sure would like to see it fixed. I sure would like to see it fixed. And I would love to see these folks taken care of, and for them to receive the help that they need to get their lives back on track. I can't imagine what it would be like to have your life blown apart like that for some catastrophic event or illness or something else, job loss, and to be out there on the raggedy edge. I mean, I can't imagine it. I could try, but I mean, I just really can't. And I wish there was an answer. So we'll see. We'll see. But hopefully this event helps some folks. And then, like I said, maybe we can get some more private partners to come in there and continue to bolster and prop it up and help make it work. We'll have to see how that goes. All right. We're jumping back into it here. We've got more. And we will continue with this one final segment. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do it.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
All right. Welcome back to the program. I was just talking with the chat room here. And again, this is it's one of those few subjects where, I mean, we've touched on it over the years on the program, especially after I moved down into the Mat-Su area and then spent some time working in Anchorage and, seeing the homelessness problem there and everything else. It's one of the few things that I don't have I guess you would say, a pat answer to. I don't have a solution that says, if you do X, this will fix it. Because we've seen that many places, many communities have tried a variety of different things. Everything from, shipping their homeless off to some other area to pouring billions of dollars into it. None of it seems to really be a long-term fix for a lot of these problems. And again, my only solution that I can come up with is to look at places like the Reason Foundation did that report that we talked about, I don't know, a year ago, about 2 or 3 of the communities across the country that seem to be getting a handle on it, including some places like Austin, Texas, and I can't remember what the other place was, but there were a couple other places where they're having some success in it. And part of it had to do with giving people a stake in things, creating, small tiny house communities and giving them some ownership in and creating pride and offering some of the mental health services and some of the other things. But I mean, I don't think there is a I don't think that there's a magic bullet to fix this. Somebody said in the chat room, I don't ever remember seeing the amount of homeless that we have today before. And I would agree with that. I mean, I don't remember this being, and maybe it just wasn't in the public eye. Maybe we just didn't see it as much. Maybe it was out of sight, out of mind. It wasn't talked about, or maybe it has increased. And that increase could do with everything from the lack of, institutionalized mental health facilities to, to creating some kind of demand for some of these. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Sometimes I don't even know what the cause of it is, but it does seem like that we're seeing more of this in various communities around the state. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see. And I wish I had the magic bullet answer for you, but I just don't. So we'll have to, I guess we'll do the best we can. And again, I would hope that as we go out and look at different communities that have addressed these issues, we can hopefully learn our lessons from communities that have done both a good and a bad job. That if we look at communities, like the one that comes to mind right now, of course, is Los Angeles and California and Seattle. Those are the ones that have been dealing with probably the most visual reference to us is Seattle. If you've been, my wife and I have been traveling through Seattle for years. We spent our honeymoon actually on the Washington coast, going up and down there. It was one of the first times we spent time together in another place. And I remember, that was 30 years ago, and I can see the difference every time I go back there. There are some examples of how not to handle homelessness, and maybe that's a good example. Maybe that's just as good an example of how to is how not to. But we've got to find something. The folks need help. They need help and they got to be willing to accept help. There are some that don't want to accept help, and I understand that. But we've got to be, we've got to find a way to bring this to to find some kind of solution point to this. Anyway, it's good to see. At least it's good to see that people are coming together and there's a lot of volunteers. And like I said, I just want to see more private organizations and individuals try to help with these things as well. And in some cases, I know that like in Fairbanks, there's been some challenges even there with the state, some of the assessors and different organizations that have been trying to help. And they're combating the state now on taxation issues and other things when these folks just want to try and give back to the community. And so sometimes they're not we should be helping each other instead of fighting amongst ourselves. Government entities against private entities, et cetera, et cetera. We should all be working together more. Kumbaya. Can't we all kumbaya? Can't we all come together and help? All right. It's a tough thing. Folks need help. Harold says homelessness is a direct result of the failure of the state legislature to develop the economy. I think it's definitely a component. Of, ignoring what happens in the private economy definitely does not help, especially in some of these smaller rural areas. Of course, I agree that's part of the problem, but I don't think that's all of it. There's no one factor that's causing all this. There's no one factor that is creating all those issues. It's a multiplicity of issues. And I agree. Chris says we need more tiny homes communities. I mean, like I said, one of the things that Austin did was that they were able to put those together, and that has helped with again, giving them a sense of community, of belonging, of ownership. I think that's a big part of it, trying to help some of these folks. And again, the mental health aspect of trying to get people to a place where they can accept help. That's the other part of the problem. And yes, mental health along with substance abuse, those are all components. Again, not one cause, not one solution. It's a multiple of issues that are going on there. It's interesting. like I said, I wish I had some better answers on that, but I don't. I can't. And like I said, maybe we should bring on. I should reach out to Reason, I guess, and find and I think it was Zach Weissmuller and somebody else at Reason who did the study and did the reporting on those communities that were actually seemed to be making inroads into homelessness. And maybe we can talk with them about that. It's an interesting topic. It's just frustrating because there's no clean answers. There's no set in stone, do this and it will fix it. That's part of the problem. So, all right. Coming up tomorrow on the program, Brad Keithley will be joining us. Brad Keithley and Chris Story, the man from Homer, who will come in to give us our weekly uplift, our weekly life coaching lesson, which we'll need after spending a full hour with Brad, who will go over the weekly top three, the big three issues that we all need to face, that he feels we all need to face, especially in the upcoming legislative session, which, again, for those of you who don't recall, starts tomorrow. The legislative session starts tomorrow. And I just don't have extremely high hopes for this legislative session. I think all the oxygen is going to be sucked up by discussion on the defined benefits program and more funding for schools. That will be front and center on everything else. And I think, unfortunately, that also means that we will see a deeper draw on the permanent fund dividend. And so we'll end up, collectively, the state, the people of the state will end up paying more in that pseudo tax that, we keep hearing that we're not taxed in this state, but essentially we are. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that, and maybe some of the other minor issues that we brought up in some of these pre-filed bills as well, although I don't expect a lot. I expect it to be the budget and the components of the budget being the education funding, the defined benefits, and the gas on Cook Inlet, where we'll probably see some form of subsidy or royalty relief or something else. They're going to come to the state and say, please help us here. And the state, in the form of the legislature, will probably say yes, because they feel like they have to do something. So it's going to be interesting. The president's inauguration begins here in about 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm sure you guys will be hearing a lot about that today. And of course, there'll be a lot of actions that take place over the next 24 hours. We'll see exactly how that plays out, what's going to happen, and where things go from here. 2025 ought to be an interesting year. I think, again, may you live in interesting times. It's not just a fortune cookie. It's not just a Confucian saying. It is where we are today. All right, my friends, thanks for coming on board. We will see you guys tomorrow. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. That's my exhortation to you every day. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Well, my friends, it's a good show. It's an interesting show. I wish I had better answers. I really do. I wish I could just say, this is what you need to do. But it's interesting. Maybe we'll tackle this in a future show. And we'll see if we can come up with some better answers, I guess. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming in and being part of it with us today. I'm sure you're all going to go check out the inauguration. Have a great day, my friends. We'll see you tomorrow.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.